What's good, folks? Welcome to another episode of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and whys behind anything and everything with the Buffalo Bills. I'm one of your two hosts this evening, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner. And Eric,
What's up?
fun episode tonight. The Bills beat the Chiefs. Everybody has gone from doom and gloom towards pivoting to the idea that the Bills are maybe the best team in the AFC and that they can reclaim the AFC East. It's good vibes. It's good energy. But as much as energy and vibes are important, you and I, we gravitate towards the X's and O's, the schematics of everything. And we got a fun episode in terms of the X's and O's and schematics tonight with, again, an important victory for the Bills coming out of Kansas City, beating the Chiefs 20-17, but some fun pieces on the offensive side and defensive side that we're going to be diving into tonight.
Yeah, we're going to, cover some of what McDermott and the defense did to Mahomes, some of the standouts, some cool little schematic technique stuff that they rolled out that we haven't really seen from McDermott much this year, and kind of an ode to him as a coordinator in Carolina, as we talked about earlier. Then we're going to take a look at some of the offensive standouts, James Cook, what Allen did on offense. And then we're going to take a quick deep dive. I say that because, we had to try to prep for this episode to kind of dive into what's been going on with Stefon Diggs and how defenses are defending him and why his production has been down a little bit and where that production has kind of gone. So, we're going to kind of take a dive into that, but we were limited in time for the preparation of that, but we're going to show you some things to keep an eye on going forward, showing you why, Diggs is kind of struggling a little bit. His production is down. Obviously, many factors to that, but we'll dive into that a little bit later as well.
Eric, coming out of this game and now moving towards Dallas and the rest of this season, where is your head right now coming out of this game? Like, is it looking forward? Is it a little piece from the Kansas City game? Is it a big piece? Like, when you think of this Buffalo Bills team right now, what's the first thing that kind of clicks into your brain in terms of what turns the light on for you?
Well, I mean, the way it ended, it was a roller coaster ride, first of all, but credit where credit is due. I do think that the defense, in that 2-minute drill, I think they did some really good things. They lightened up on the blitz, like we talked about. Sean didn't blitz as much. He kind of blitzed like the first two plays and then kind of backed off.
He was doing that, and I was like, God damn it. Like,
yeah, I know. Like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. And so you saw pressure. I thought the defensive line, not just in the 2-minute drill, but the entire game really set the tone. When you watch the film from the all 22 angle, you just saw the offensive line of the Chiefs getting pushed back into the face of Mahomes. And I think it affected him. Number two, the rush lane integrity was phenomenal in this game. It was so good in this game. I think only had one scramble for 8 yards.
Yeah, and it was that one that was in like the third quarter, like early fourth. It was definitely in the second half. That was literally the only one.
Yeah, and so, I mean, they forced Mahomes to make a lot of throws from the pocket. He was under pressure 37.8% of the time. And when you looked at like the depth of the passes, his ADOT was 6.1. That was the third lowest of the season. And I think that had a lot to do with the Bills defensive line and getting pressure, forcing the ball out quickly, and, forcing those receivers to have to process the coverages post snap, which, with the way that McDermott disguises, you could see some of those miscommunications and breakdowns happen when you're talking about the connection between Mahomes and the receivers.
Yeah, I really liked early on just kind of making Mahomes uncomfortable right from the jump. They were running some two-man game, and even when they weren't, they were just, like you said, impacting the depth of that pocket and getting into Mahomes' face. And consistently throughout the game, there wasn't a ton of sacks on Mahomes, but they were hitting him. They were bringing him to the ground. Like, even if they weren't bringing him to the ground, they were getting a hit on his hand, on his arm, on his shoulder. Like, they did a really good job of just making him feel what looked like uncomfortable throughout the entirety of this game. And you mentioned one of the pieces that really stuck out for me, the coverage pieces. SIS is failing me right now with the tendency report, but 36% man coverage in that game against Kansas City, which was the sixth highest man coverage rate for that week for the Buffalo Bills. And pairing that with a lot of the disguising that they were doing on the back end. And just, again, it doesn't have to be the most complicated thing, but showing too high and spinning to single or vice versa, and just rocking those safeties and never really allowing Patrick Mahomes to get a solid beat on what they were doing. We saw a couple split field coverage pieces and, some cover six, or, Rasul Douglas is locked on a man on one side and the other side is playing cover two and zone and all those pieces. Some of the things, honestly, that they kind of leaned into a bit last year in the regular season when they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And it was nice to see those tweaks, those wrinkles, and then obviously, the defensive pieces schematically we're going to break down in this film room. It wasn't as significant as the odd mirror stuff that we saw last year against
Right.
City, but I was very happy to see. Again, it doesn't have to be this revolutionary thing that happens in a game, but it was nice to see something that felt like a opponent specific, matchup specific piece that they leaned into that ended up making a significant difference.
Yeah, I mean, some of the you didn't get those again, those overall wrinkles like you said. But seeing some of the pressures and blitzes that they were sending, which we're going to cover a couple of them, and the different ways to send a linebacker and drop an edge guy. More times than not, we're so used to seeing the Bills run those simulated and creeper pressures where they're
Mhm.
sending a linebacker, dropping out an end. Well, they did that this week, but more of the man variety, right? So they would send the extra rusher, a linebacker, sometimes two linebackers, but then drop out the DN, but not drop him out into just the underneath zone. They were peeling him. They were saying, hey, if the running back releases to your side, that defensive end has to peel off and get him. So there were some different looks. Again, more of the man variety, a la Jim Johnson with the Eagles
Mhm.
years ago. So it was a cool little set of wrinkles, not overall defensive structure, but some cool stuff that they did to kind of slow down the processing. Again, not of just Mahomes, but of those receivers and tight ends.
Yeah, and I thought that paired well with the overall man coverage theme and mixing in that they had on that back end, challenging these receivers, trying to close down space, getting physical with Travis Kelsey at the line with Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford, and making them have to operate in that fashion consistently, and consistently having to win and consistently having to separate it. It's those little things that I think get lost in the aggression conversation. I feel like people think of an aggressive defense and that means like blitzing and hard hits, and it's not always or necessarily that. Sometimes, like for me at least, aggression can just be like, just get up and press guys or play more man coverage, like challenging more of the offense. And they did that in this game. And Eric, now we take a peek at the peel technique pieces that you alluded to earlier with the defensive ends getting involved in some man coverage, and it was something that worked out well for the Bills in this game. And we got a couple clips to break it down.
Yeah, so let's take a look at this. You can see them move Kelsey, and that obviously uncovers that they're in man coverage, players on Kelsey. So to the top of the screen, I want you to pay attention to Rousseau right here, because they're going to send both these linebackers, right? So they're going to cross dog those guys. And so if this guy, Douglas, is locked on the receiver up there, who the heck's going to be covering the running back when he wheels outside here? And that ended up being Greg Rousseau. And you see him look at the quarterback initially, and Mahomes sees it. He's like, okay, there's our matchup. Very much like the Bills use Cook. You see Clyde Edwards-Helaire swing out there, and then look at Rousseau carry it up the sideline and use his length to kind of slow that path down of the running back. Like, it was really cool stuff. Again, Mahomes recognized it,
Mhm.
but Rousseau executed better, and he stayed over the top. He cut him off. He choked that route out and caused the incompletion down the field. Awesome, peel technique. So talk about this cross dog blitz and how those guys became free. Ant.
Man, this was a piece you and I were talking earlier today. How and you mentioned it in the lead in here, like reminiscent of Carolina, and we saw this a ton. I mean, you would see it in the Philadelphia, Jim Johnson years, and also with McDermott there as well. But if anybody remembers these Panther defenses, you were seeing Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly run this cross dog blitz pretty regularly. They whether disguise it early on or just kind of sugar or mug those A gaps with it. And the Bills had several successful snaps running
Yeah.
that in this game. And, Terrell Bernard, we've talked about him before. One of his, favorite attributes of ours is his blitzing ability, his physicality, the timing of it. But he and Dodson were working really well in tandem. And you see it on this play, like the pacing and the timing of it. Bernard goes first. He occupies that center, takes him with him. And Tyrell Dodson just has a free runway alley right onto Patrick Mahomes. It works out so well. And then pairing that with Rousseau peeling off, that left tackle ends up picking up nobody. You get Linval Joseph on Joe Tooney at the left guard, and then Bernard takes Humphrey. So you created that free runner while also wasting an offensive lineman. It was well designed from the look they showed initially, pairing it with that man coverage on the back end. So really successful with that cross dog piece. And again, huge shout out to Greg Rousseau for squeezing Clyde Edwards-Helaire on that sideline, forcing him to the boundary, using that boundary as an extra defender. This was really well done from a front end coverage perspective. And more importantly, Eric, some of the things we've talked about with the struggles of the Bills defense recently was the coverage in the fronts or the coverage in the pass rush not working well together in tandem. That was the opposite of what we saw there. The pass rush and the coverage worked perfectly together.
Yeah, and later in the game, we saw a similar approach here. Chiefs are in a 2-by-2 set. Bills, once again, kind of send that cross dog into the field. Von Miller's the one that peels, and he peels. You can see Rousseau, and I'll show it from the end zone angle. Rousseau up top is pointing to Miller because Edwards-Helaire came to his side. He's saying, hey, guess what? You have to peel if he goes out wide. And so what they're trying to do right now with this little motion right here is kind of uncover what the Bills are in, who's following him. But watch what happens when he comes back in and then he peels out. Watch Bernard. Boom. He shoots his gap. Here comes Dotson again. And then this time it's Miller dropping out and disrupting Edwards-Helaire. And again, it confuses guys on the offensive side of the ball. And that pressure gets home. It causes Mahomes to step up in the pocket, kind of reload, and then everyone's closing in on their guys as the pass is thrown and the ball goes incomplete. Some awesome stuff from the Bills and these type of plays.
Yeah, good design and good setup for it. And then the execution, like you said, like the timing of Bernard, the communication. I really like what Tyrel Dodson does again on this one as he comes free through the gap. Watch him flatten, like he doesn't get too far upfield. He doesn't round too much. You've seen him lean and flatten and beat Trey Smith around to get to Mahomes. And then you get Greg Rousseau coming off the right edge who just slams Mahomes. And what's funny about Rousseau, Rousseau loses his footing as he's trying to get upfield, and it actually works. Like it just looks like he planned this, like he fell on purpose, because then it drops Morris.
Frazier.
Frazier goes down. Yeah, super hard. Poor Wanya Morris on that one. And Groot immediately, as soon as he falls, pops back up. It's almost like, again, like he planned it. Like he went down and was like, psych, just with the way he dropped down. Oh, let me just get right back up. And he comes free. Like that's just an example, like things really starting to click and work for this defense. But again, it starts with that initial call, the design, the recognition. I think it's awesome that Greg Rousseau is the one dictating, communicating to Von Miller. Von is looking to him, like recognizing the call. So it's awesome to see that leadership piece from Rousseau as well. And then, Von executing, Bernard and Dodson executing, Linval and Settle, providing some traffic as well, and then Rousseau making a play out of nothing.
I love this. I love the disguise, because again, they're doing this motion from Mahomes' left to his right with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They're doing that on purpose, and watch how the Bills still disguise it. You see Bernard run with him, and then here comes back into the formation, and what's he do? He fires his gun downhill. So it's very good disguise right there. Mahomes does want to go to his left, but again, that integrity. Look at everyone. He's surrounded. There's no way he's getting out of this. As you said, very good work by Dodson as a rusher on this play as well, flying into the quarterback. So, and I think this was the play that was offensive pass interference, right? This was
Yes, so that's even a better part too. Kelsey gets called for the push-off, but despite that, Rasul Douglas stays close enough and then is able to generate the PBU on the back end. Like, again, just like from start to finish, top to bottom, front to back, however you want to label it, that play was just working, for this Bills defense. And again, just it's not this huge, like, oh, the Bills came out and completely changed what they did up front or completely changed this or added this brand new thing. No, it was just these little wrinkles, similar to some of the little wrinkles we've seen offensively. It was nice to see, Sean McDermott bust out some of those wrinkles, especially considering, he lost the team and he's the worst coach in the history of football, according to some people and sources.
And before we flip to the offensive side, I want to get your quick thoughts on Von Miller, what he looked, how he looked this game. And this was the first game as I was combing through the film. I hit up Kyle from Banged Up Bills. I was like, hey, is this the first week he doesn't have his brace on?
Yeah.
And he went back and looked and he said, yeah, this is the first time we've seen it. He double checked the Eagles game and he still had the brace on. And I will say it was quite noticeable when you talk about, the burst and explosiveness off the ball, like off the snap, like you saw it in this game. And then you saw him beat the hands of Morris, which again, he should. But it was nice to see that extra pep in his step and ability to not quite turn like he used to turn the corner, but it's coming. I do think that it was quite noticeable the fact that he shed that brace in this game.
He's been and it hasn't been enough, especially for most of the fan base with everything going on, but he's been little by little each week showing incremental improvements. And again, it hasn't been huge. It hasn't been like he's gone from a 1 to a 4 to an 8. It's been like from a 1 to maybe a 2.5 to a 3 to maybe a 4. It's been little, but each week he starts to show some more improvement. He gains a little more juice. And yeah, I was right. I'm right there in lockstep with you. Like I don't know if it's him feeling better or it is the shedding of the brace, but we saw more juice. We saw more burst. And Eric, we also started to see, I started keeping track of it and then I forgot as I started doing it. There were about, I know one of them was the, when people were saying Von Miller was offsides toward the end of the game in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
which he was not at all. But there were multiple snaps in that game where he was timing that snap count. And when he starts to time that snap count, it
Yes.
just
And you know what he was doing, Ant?
Mhm.
He wasn't timing it off the ball. He was reading Jawan Taylor, which he's
Oh,
notorious for leaving
yeah.
half a click early. If go back and
Yeah.
watch this, guys. It was amazing to watch because he's like, I'm not gonna watch the ball. I'm gonna watch Taylor because he's got a good beat on when the ball's gonna be snapped, and it was working. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool to see.
He was doing really good. And when you see him start to do those little things, and then this is me just reading into it, like this isn't a fact or anything. That just makes me feel like he's starting to get locked in a little bit more. He's starting to get zoned in a little bit more. He's starting to feel it a little bit. And I think one of the big things that we don't talk about enough with injuries is the mental side of it. Like, yes, you have the physical limitations with it, but there's also that mental side in terms of knowing, like, you had this injury. Can you get back to your former self? Is that injury good? Are you fully healthy? Can you trust it? Especially with knee injuries, like you're afraid to cut and plan in certain ways. There is that mental aspect in addition to the physical, and the mental can manifest in physical ways. And so it was nice to see him have that physical juice and burst, but then seeing the little things like timing the snap count and reading it off of Taylor and seeing what he was doing, that made me get excited for the mental piece as well. And I still don't think he's going to be the Von Miller of last year at any point this year, but I think it's potentially encouraging for what he can do the rest of the way, and then maybe even bigger hopes for what he can be in 2024.
Yeah, so I think this is the play in the fourth quarter, like just
Yeah.
beating the hands
Yeah.
of this guy. Just a great job of chopping. I'm gonna play it. So watch that outside hand of Vaughn and then watch the outside hand of the offensive tackle, just like quick chop down, and you see him, get a big hit on Mahomes. And he did get a couple hits on Mahomes, and
Mhm.
I think that matters. I think that hitting a guy like Mahomes, it resonates like most quarterbacks, but that was a good one, especially late in the game. You wanna affect the quarterback. You wanna let him know that you're there, and so this was one of the better reps for Miller. And the one thing that kind of crept up in this game that I noticed was the depth of Mahomes' drop.
Mm.
He has a tendency to drop. Normally like a drop is like 8 or 9 yards, seven and
Mm.
a half to 9 yards.
Mm.
Mahomes dropped like 12, 13 yards sometimes, and their tackles are one of their weaknesses. And especially when you're talking about Morris on this play, when you drop that deep, you really make them susceptible to giving up that corner because they don't have to bend and flatten. A guy like Von Miller doesn't have to bend and flatten. The play late in the game with Floyd, like
Mm.
that was a 13-yard drop by the quarterback. And so
Wow.
Floyd was chipped and he still took a speed move outside and still got into the face and affected Mahomes on that. And that's, I think it was the second to last play of the game.
Yeah, and that's a great point too. Like that, I don't think that gets talked about enough with how that impacts offensive line play. Like, and you can have an offensive lineman just get beat badly because of the drop of the quarterback, and that's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, "Oh my god, what's this offensive lineman doing?" And then it's like, "No, no, 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 that's not on the tackle. Like that's on the quarterback. Like his depth is he's so deep in his drop that the angle is lost for that tackle. And like,
Right.
what are you going to do? It sets you up for failure. It makes me think back to like when we're watching the Senior Bowl and we're seeing like the one-on-one battles in the trenches, and you'll see like an edge go way around and everybody's like, "Ooh, he got him." And it's like, "No, he didn't." Like the quarterback's not going to drop 15 yards like that. Like he didn't win that rep.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely, man. And what about Ed Oliver, man? I think he was
Cool.
another guy that kind of stood out in this game.
He has continued. I feel like now he's starting to get a little more shine, but each week he just continues to flash, and we've seen flashes from him before, but this year the flashes are more consistent and repetitive, and even when he's not flashing, it's just good football. And you were watching him in this game, whether it was the hands, whether it was leverage, whether it was kind of relentlessness like you see on this play, like
Yeah.
his eyes were always in the backfield. There's multiple reps against the run where he is just driving Joe Tooney and Wanya Morris into the backfield and wrecking things. It seemed like he was constantly in motion. He's been stepping up his game almost every single week, and especially without having Daquan Jones on the interior and having some questions with the rest of the players on the interior defensive line, Ed Oliver has just been this constant force on the interior within the pass rush game. But I think this year and what we've seen recently, him stepping it up against the run, he's just been a physical presence. And it's not just him penetrating and getting through like, oh, because of his quickness and size. He's been going through dudes. He's been gumming up the works on the interior. And it's nice to see him holding that ground with physicality in addition to the speed game and penetration game that he has.
Yeah, and speaking of penetration, like in this game, you saw one of those reps where he just drove, I think it was Smith, right into Mahomes'
Mhm.
lap, and the ball went incomplete. But there were like 2 or 3 plays where they're trying to cut him off on the backside of his own run, and
Well,
and Morris was trying to cut him off on that backside cut, and he just blew Morris up, like he took him right to the ball, like 2 or 3 different times from the backside of these zone runs.
yep.
He was just super disruptive in the run and the pass game. And it's nice to see him start to get again. He was kind of banged up and was dealing with some
Mhm.
some injuries as well. To see him, start to get going now, even more so. He's had a great season, and it's nice to see him show up in these big games.
Absolutely. Like, and as again, Daquan Jones being out, Von Miller trying to find his footing. Eric, we've talked a bunch about Greg Rousseau, not playing healthy for a majority of this year. And then in this game, AJ Epinesa makes a phenomenal play, and he's been very good for the Bills this year. He goes down. And so it's
Yeah,
really been, for a large majority of this year, the defensive line has been carried by Leonard Floyd and Ed Oliver. And just week after week, those two dudes keep rolling. And Ed has just been a really nice surprise. Like, I think I even, speaking for myself, I balked a little bit at that contract he got this offseason. I know the flashes were there and that, but he had so much variance to his game. And you'd see those flashes, but they would be almost equaled out or balanced out in a negative way by the absences we'd see from him. And you're just not getting that this year. He is a constant, impact player in the pass and against the run, which is super important, but even more so given what we've seen from the defense as far as injuries this year. And the guys that are remaining, they have to step up and they have to make plays. And Ed Oliver has, 100% been one of those dudes for the Bills this year. And Eric, on the offensive side of the ball, a lot of fun things coming out of this Kansas City game. And speaking of guys, impact players and guys making plays, there were some standouts on the offensive side of the ball. We talked about Stefon Diggs, and that's a standout from a little bit of a negative perspective, which we'll talk about. But on the positive side, there were some nice ones to talk about and break down.
yeah. I want to start with James Cook. We're going to take a look at James Cook in the receiving game. Obviously, he had some really nice runs. On the offensive side of the ball, and especially when they went to those 4 strong formations, right, where they had 4 guys to one side, and they kind of mixed in some of those RPO looks. I thought Cook did a really good job, especially like I wanted to break down some more of the run game, but it's really the same plays every week. It's that tackle pull with Dawkins
That's
just
it.
clearing things out. So I didn't want to be redundant. So I kind of eliminated that from some of the film that we're going to break down because I want to, save some time for the whole Diggs conversation. But
Yeah.
as a receiver, it's again expected. When we're talking the running back position, since Joe Brady's taken over, everyone expected it. But to see it in this game kind of take shape against 2 really good linebackers when you're talking about Bolton and Willie Gay, but you could tell the mismatch that the Bills found, especially early in the game. And it wasn't just Joe Brady scheming things up. A lot of times it was Josh like recognizing it or even
Mm,
putting them into the play to win that matchup. And James Cook, he finished 5 receptions for 83 yards. He took
mm.
advantage of every opportunity.
There was one, I forget when in the game it was, but it was just like a little option route where he comes out of the backfield and it's just him and Willie Gay and he hits him with a little stutter and goes to the
Hmm.
left and Allen hits him and he separates immediately. And that was the one that I was like, I've watched Alvin Kamara do that for years and like Austin Eckler do that for years. And when you draft a running back with the skill set that James Cook has, Eric, we talked about it when the Bills drafted him. Like our initial thought was, man, what they're going to do in the pass game with this guy is so exciting. And we just really never saw that usage last year and for the majority of this year. And Joe Brady taking over as OC, we've seen the wrinkles and the improvements in this offense, but it's really just been a heaven sent, a signing there for the running backs, not just James Cook with what we've seen with Murray and Ty Johnson as well, but Cook has really been like the high impact dividend payoff because of what his skill set offers in the pass game. And Brady's allowed Allen in this offense to tap into it.
It was great in this game because you saw a lot of two high shells, two safeties deep, and it allowed Allen and Brady to find those matchups with Cook and the linebackers underneath. And you saw the burst. You're going to see the burst. We're going to watch a bunch of those receptions. And it's funny because, like, when you talk to a lot of defensive coaches, especially at the college level, they say defending the running back is the most difficult thing because a lot of people just don't really account for the running back when you're talking about coverages. And so it's usually the last guy you're worried about. Well, now Cook has slowly risen to the top where he's like, hey, 2, 3, or 4, and in at any given moment can, get 12 yards like this on this play. This is the first play of the game. The Bills get pressure. They get a free rusher right in Josh Allen's face. And I want you to watch Cook as he releases. So initially he works outside. He thinks he might have to help right here on read coming off the edge. He doesn't. And then he definitely saw what happened to Spencer Brown whiffing on this play. Spencer forgets he's got to punch inside here, punch step inside and take that guy in a squeeze. He gets right into Josh Allen's face. He said, and Cook saw it. He goes, you know what? I'm just going to turn, become QB friendly. And I think Willie Gay is probably the guy that's supposed to be watching Cook, but he's worried about Josh going out the front door here. Mm-hmm. Josh finds him. And what do you know? You get like a 12-yard gain on this play. So this is the type of stuff that he adds that the Bills really haven't had, whether it's early in the play, late in the play, a pressure release, a blitz release. This is nice to have when you're talking about this time of year and, the film that you're putting out. He's putting up 100 yards from scrimmage damn near every game.
Yeah. And I think I saw something today, like he and Stefon Diggs are like the third or fourth duo in the league in terms of like most plays, 10 plus yards. It's like, I think it's like Hill and Waddle and McCaffrey and Debo, and then the Eagles dudes, and then Diggs and Cook or something like that. And Eric, this first play worked out. It worked so smooth that like when I watched it on the broadcast, I was like, was this on purpose?
Yeah, that's what Charles is saying. That play almost looked like a design middle screen.
Exactly right. Like that was my first thought. I was like, yeah, did they plan this? Because it just like, I was like, man, look how they invited like Mike Dana to come through. Like so smart. And then I saw it on film and I was like, oh no, that's not what happened. So it was a great job from Allen adjusting and hitting Cook. But Eric, I think it was what was it, the Detroit game last year, where Cook was just giving you those examples of not being QB friendly, just not being on the same page with Allen in these type of moments. And it's the complete opposite right here on this play and what we're seeing from him more. And I love too how he basically inserts himself exactly where Mike Dana came from. He literally just replaces him, similar to what you'd see when like you get a linebacker to bite on something, you replace him with the tight end and it's open over in the middle of the field, which actually we saw in this game. Just his feel for it. And again, literally inserts himself into where Mike Dana was, right into that path, keeps himself away from Willie Gay and Justin Reed on that outside, and then gets that ball immediately, turns and gets upfield and starts to use that juice. This was, again, awesome play from Allen to stay poised, avoid the rush, and make the throw. But man, the feel and the recognition for James Cook, or from James Cook, it's a stark difference versus where he was last year.
Yeah, and how about this play right here, man? This is a beautiful call here. This is our sponsor segment right here. I mean, look at that pass up the seam here. This is our easy loan auto sales play of the game. This is the 25-yard touchdown to James Cook. And I love this play just because of the way it's designed. You're on the fringe of the red zone. So it's like, that's where Josh likes to take those shots down the field. Like, hey, he can be good in the red zone in that tight area because he's got that arm strength, but he can really unleash it on these type of plays because you're just on the fringe, 25, 30-yard line. But I want to work on some of these details. So you get the jet action going this way. And so watch the release by Kincaid. He has to make sure to get that inside shoulder of Bolton. Why? So that it can get him to stop his feet and he can hold him there. You see this safety come down. Look at his hips, Anthony. His hips are open and they're open to the sideline. And so with pressure in his face, Josh has to make a decision here. Hey, do I'm going to just throw it hot out here to Sherfield, or because of the body language right here, can I get Cook up the seam? And so he, again, holds the ball just a little bit and then up and over the long arms of Bolton, and then boom, touchdown to James Cook. I just love this play from the fringe of the red zone, and the layered throw is really what clinches it on this touchdown.
Yeah, especially, funny it being a seam throw, which is something you and I again were talking about
Mhm.
earlier today, or like Allen doesn't throw those a bunch. This worked out so well, just from the initial motion and how it pulled Mike Edwards forward. Just, and like you said, like his hips, like he's opened up, he's coming forward, he is spinning down, honoring that jet action, and it puts him completely out of position to even kind of regain
Mhm.
control and do anything with Cook. Yeah, you have him highlighted there. He's coming forward, honoring that jet action. Bolton gets occupied by Kincaid, which is another piece that I really like, because in the initial alignment, Kincaid is the 2 and Cook is the 3. And based on how they release, Kincaid becomes the 3 and Cook becomes the 2. It's a
Yep.
nice little switch. It affects Bolton. It allows Cook to get up that
How
seam.
quick he gets up the seam
I
too.
know.
Once he gets inside the numbers, like, pew, like he just gets north and south, man. He's so quick up the seam there.
He looked like one of those, like, the little, like, race cars you used to have when you were little, where you would, like, pull them back and then let them go, and they would just, like, shoot forward. Like, he comes out of the gate hot, like, almost to the point that, like, it looks like you're playing this at, like, 1.5 or 2 times speed. But no, he recognizes it, turns on the jets, and gets up that seam. And this is one of those 4 strong concepts you talked about
Mhm.
earlier, Eric, with Sherfield motioning, it becomes that 4 strong. And for those who don't know, 4 strong just means you have 4 eligibles to one side of the field and 1 eligible to the opposite side. So Gabe Davis is 1, Kincaid is 2, becomes 3. Cook is 3, becomes 2, and then Trent Sherfield is your number 4, and then Dawson Knox is all by his lonesome on that other side. It's just nice with these 4 strong pieces. They can just mess with the defense's ability to
Yeah, you
distribute
flood it. You
routes.
flood
Yep.
the zones,
Yep.
especially this is a zone blitz, and those guys are trying to. Again, you see how many guys are in coverage here. You're just flooding that area. There's so many guys that they have to account for, and they don't have enough guys because they're sending the extra pass rushers. It just floods that area.
Yeah, and like you talked about too, that Sherfield piece, like he's that built-in check down. Like there's built-in answers, and it works with the timing of what the Chiefs called. It was a great play call, great design, great execution from everyone involved, and that's part of the reason why, again, it is our making it look easy. Easy Loan Auto Sales play of the game, sponsored of course by Easy Loan Auto Sales, who, regardless of your credit situation, Easy Loan can help you get behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All of their vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and they have 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls. They can get you driving today. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval, and you can find their company information in our episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you are listening to this show on.
Yeah, beautiful touch throw down the seam for that touchdown. It was good stuff,
Absolutely.
man. So now we're gonna go to the end of the first quarter, 2nd and 10 situation here. Again, James Cook. We're focusing on James Cook in this breakdown. You see the motion doesn't really uncover too much, but I want you to watch on this play. I want you to watch the movement of this defender. I want you to watch the movement of the deep safety, but more importantly, to the top of the screen, I want you to watch that guy. As that motion happens, watch those 3 guys and how they space out. Now it's a 3-by-1 set. You got 3 to the bottom of the field. And so you can see as these 2 defenders right here start moving down. So, okay, now Josh sees.
Oh, Eric, you're on mute.
I'm mute.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Computer
Happens to the
glitch
best
here.
of us.
All right, so now, yeah, man. I was telling you, I got a new monitor and it's messing with me right now. So
Oh, more technical difficulties. On mute again. As Eric starts to fix that. Yeah, so what you're going to see here, that motion from Shakir. Oh, you back?
yeah, I got it. So 3-by-1, right, guys? Man coverage to the bottom. And so to the top, just like we saw in the Eagles game, and early in the game on the Bills defensive side of the ball, who's going to cover Cook coming out of the backfield here? If this is man coverage, it's not this safety because you can see this guy's kind of moving back already. Bolton's nowhere near in position to go ahead and pick up Cook. So what Josh saw was, you know what? Willie Gay is probably going to be in man coverage. And that's why Josh came up to the line of scrimmage and said, hey, let's set the protection. Let's slide it to the right and Cook, hey, run the wheel. because we got the mismatch, and you can see Josh float it right down the field. And if you guys, as I said, if that looks familiar, Anthony, I'll come back to that so I can get your 2 cents on it. If that
Mm,
looks familiar, it's probably
mhm.
because you saw it against the Eagles.
Okay.
And on this play,
Oof.
Cook dropped the ball. This was a touchdown. He dropped it there. And it's the very same play. But more importantly, it's the very same protection. So look, 5-man surface across from the Eagles. And so normally when the Bills see that 5-man surface, they go 5-0 protection, right, Ant? We talked about it a bunch over the
Mhm.
years in the film room. Man on man protection. And so they're not worried about this linebacker because they can tell, hey, he's manned up on him. And again, James Cook dropped that ball here. But on this play, it's a little different. So they get the 5-man protection, they get the 5-man surface, and the Bills were likely going to do a 5-man protection. But because of Bolton not being over here looking like he's going to cover Cook, Josh had to change protection here. He couldn't do the man on protection because this guy's going to drop out, and he knew it. So he had to get Bolton to get picked up. And so that's how they slid this way, picked those guys up, and then the beautiful throw to Cook.
Stay in this angle real quick and just go in slow motion, right from the snap. Look how perfectly in unison the entire Bills offensive line is. Like, they look like they're a Motown group, like doing a dance on stage. Like, they are just in perfect sync as they all step. And look how beautiful
Yeah.
everything lines up with basically a hat on a hat, as though Karloftis ends up dropping out. But a hat on a hat, protection is there. It's sound. And one of the pieces, Eric, that we talked about earlier in the year when things weren't going well for the Bills offense was some of that recognition from Josh, either not, recognizing where pressure was coming from or not setting the protection correctly or not reading his hots and seeing what's open. And him sliding that line, he understands, okay, they're going this way to honor Bolton. Willie Gay is basically like my responsibility. And if he
Right.
comes, cool, I can just hit Cook hot because that somehow means Justin Reed is covering him, which means he's going to be open right away underneath. But that more likely scenario, like you said, is Willie Gay is going to peel out and cover Cook. And look how Allen's eyes like immediately get there. He sets the protection, boom, ball's in his hands. He immediately gets his eyes to Willie Gay, and then he can see, the route and the trajectory for James Cook, and Willie Gay just has no shot. He tries to get upfield. Cook just bows it out right around him and gets upfield. This was such a great quarterback play in terms of playing quarterback mentally by Josh Allen. And again, a nice improvement, things that we weren't seeing earlier in the year in terms of setting the protection, recognizing, where that matchup advantage
Yeah.
is right off the bat pre-snap, and then hitting it immediately
And
post-snap.
just hypothetical here, Ant. So imagine if they stayed in that 5-0 protection, guys. So imagine if Josh doesn't change his play, and these guys are the 5 that they're picking up here. Just imagine that, because what happens post snap is if if uh if they do it that way, and Bolton's gonna have a free run right down Broadway
Which
to
we've seen
Josh Allen.
before because when
Yes.
they've been inaccurate diagnosing the pressure.
Right. And so post snap, though, obviously Bolton comes so they can pick him up because of the slide. But more importantly, obviously you see Gay get out of there and Karloftis gets out of there. So they would have had basically, 2 guys blocking, no one over there, and had a free runner right in Josh's face. But this was a proactive play from Josh Allen and the Bills offense. And one we've seen them, utilize over the last few weeks, especially when you're talking Gabe Davis being the single receiver out wide and
Mhm.
them running those rail routes up the sideline. Like, that's something they've been working on, and that's really been a special of Joe Brady since he's taken over.
I would say we've looked at it so much in terms of even just that first game against the Jets when they ran it early on, it didn't work, and then they came out in the second half and Gabe adjusted his route and in terms of his angle, and then Cook adjusted his route in terms of his angle. We saw them start to hit it, but it's been more. They've been hitting it to Cook more underneath or immediate, kind of more around the line of scrimmage. And last week against Philly, like you showed, it was open downfield and Cook just wasn't able to bring it in. So it was nice to see him kind of receive a little bit of vindication here.
Yeah.
And also a good ball too from Allen. Like, Cook doesn't have to slow up. He doesn't have to wait for it. It hits him right in the hands. It hits him right in stride. And also, like, I think you get a little glimpse, not to make too much of it or anything, but like how comfortable Cook is in space. I know he had that drop last week, but it's just so effortless watching him catch this ball here and transitioning, like, just from receiver to runner. Like, he's so fluid in space. It's nice to see. He's a perfect dude to work with Joe Brady with his experience of, utilizing running backs in the pass game.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And so I want to get to, this is a 4th and 2 play, right? 4th and 1 play.
Yep.
And so we saw this play a few weeks ago where Josh on this speed boot, hit Johnson. He got up the sideline for the touchdown. Well, Josh decides not to pull the trigger here. And boy, man, once he decided not to do it, I said, oh boy, he's in
Same.
trouble.
I was like, crap.
He's in trouble because that's one of those bang bang plays, and everyone else is covered here. And so Josh does what he does best. He just extends as much as he can. I mean, he's damn near comes to a standstill and somehow gets Bolton to jump up, and then he drops that arm angle to Kincaid for the first down. This is huge, man. I think this was the drive too where the Bills were aggressive, obviously here, going for it on fourth down, and so they ended up scoring a touchdown on this drive, and obviously that was very rewarding when you're talking about the aggressive nature that we want to see McDermott play with on the offensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. And you highlighted everything from Josh. Like, I got nothing to add, just how much I love the arm angle piece. So I'm gonna speak about Dalton Kincaid, who, man, Eric, we've talked about him so much, but this is such a heads up savvy play, let alone the extension and the catch at the point. But watch him right here. He looks in the backfield and he sees that Josh is in trouble. He then peeks at the linebackers and sees where they are, and then looks back to Josh and is like, oh, okay, let me uncover and get QB friendly. And then he goes full extension and brings this ball in. We've seen so many examples, even going back into training camp in the preseason, of the savviness and the feel that Dalton Kincaid has for space and for players around him and leverage and all of these things. And this is another example of that here happening off script. And just for him to do it in this kind of moment, like on a fourth down, like the composure, the calm, the poise, the recognition, the football IQ, this is one of those plays that really builds confidence in a player for a quarterback, because he bailed Josh Allen out here. Like, this is obviously a tremendous play by Allen to make something out of nothing and, pump and change the arm angle and kind of wait a little bit. But man, like, that's a hell of a savvy play from Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty funny play. And talking about these type of Allen plays, like you don't want
Yeah.
to see too many of these a game, but this throw to Murray, and I mean, there's so much happening on this play. And thankfully it ended well for the Bills on this
Yes.
play. Because honestly, like Josh was 0.2 yards from the boundary here, pressure in his face immediately, runs out to the boundary. He's got nothing here. He's got nothing, but you can see Murray right here put his hands up, and then he goes and finds Green. And it's something that Murray's done rather well, like surprisingly
Mhm.
well this year, especially third and fourth downs where Josh is under duress and he has really nowhere to go. You saw Josh flip it to him in the Jets game. He did it in the Jags game a couple times as well.
Mhm.
I thought Murray was locked in, and you can see what I mean from the end zone angle, because Murray is actually not supposed to be in a route here, Ant. Like initially, watch what the Chiefs are doing here. So what they're doing is they're running a pick. You get a pick here from 54. You get the looper and Omenahue Charles, who we loved coming
Yeah.
into the draft, out of draft, and they set a pick on Dawkins, and you can see him, Murray, right here, stand right in there and pick him up. But the picker gets right into the face of Josh. But then watch Murray. He realizes Josh is running out of real estate, and he puts his hands up, and Josh holds it as long as he can, almost kind of telegraphs with his body, hey, like, get upfield. And he floats it up over the top of the DB for the big play.
This one, man, from like scat back open field savant Latavius Murray over here, and just it starts with the protection. And him picking up a legitimate edge rusher in Charles Omenihu is something that we probably could talk about more just in and of itself. Like the recognition, the ability to recognize the game, like that's a good pickup on a legitimate edge rusher. And he stands him up at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage. So good job there. That's part of the reason why he is in those scenarios, because of his recognition and ability in pass protection. But then, yeah, man, like we talked about it with Kincaid on the previous play, the savviness and the recognition. And it's super impressive from Kincaid, and even more so because he's a rookie. But this is that veteran savvy from Murray, like recognizing the situation and getting upfield and getting open and making yourself available. Like, and obviously, things work out fortuitously with him, dropping the ball, and it ends up still, going out of bounds and staying in the Bills' possession. But ridiculous, and one mixtape tour audition type play from
Yeah.
Josh Allen, and just the savviness and the recognition and the IQ of Latavius Murray to, again, get out into the route. Like, you might see guys kind of sit back and not realize what's going on or try and leak out the wrong way. Like you called it when you showed the sideline angle. He's showing to Josh, like he sees it right away. Like, oh, that space is there. I'm
Yep.
going, get it to me. And then Josh's body language finishes that communication. It just a ridiculous play in a game where the Bills needed a play like that. And we haven't seen a lot of those this year, Eric. We haven't seen a lot of those like alien Josh Allen plays, those high variance plays from a positive
Mhm.
perspective. And it's nice to see those starting to creep in a little bit because those are the ones that really break a defense's back. When something like that happens, you all just kind of look at each other and you're like, dude, like really? Like, and that
Yeah.
sucks as a defender.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So yeah, we wanted to cover some of James Cook, show some of those Allen plays as well, especially that one. That one was just crazy, crazy stuff. But I want to dive deep into Stefon Diggs and
Mm,
his lack of production. And I will start off by saying that sure, Diggs's production is down. But I will say he's doing some things to open up for his teammates, right? I mean, that's
mhm,
pretty obvious. He's getting a lot of attention. They're jumping his routes. And typically you heard Allen say it like every other week in his pressers is, hey, Stefon Diggs is pretty much our first read in everything we run. And I think teams are listening to that. So, they're doing a good job of taking Diggs away, taking away that first read, much like we talked about with Tua.
mhm,
Like, yeah, you want to get your alpha receiver the ball. And so I think teams have adjusted to that and are taking him away on a lot of those quick concepts. It's
mhm,
it's again the extension of the run game. Get the ball out quick, get it to Diggs, let him set up the offense and keep them on schedule, keep them ahead of the chains. And so I think that is the first part of why we've seen him struggle right around week 7, 8, 9. You've
mhm.
seen some of that production, like baseline production, kind of drop. Now he's had some, again, some variance to it, but I think that's the first factor that we're starting to see when you look back at some of the film and what they're doing to Diggs.
Yeah, and going into this game, like having some struggles for Diggs and then having him go up against Steve Spagnuolo and this Chiefs defense exacerbated everything and made it even worse. So I went through in Stefon Diggs's 6 career games against the Kansas City Chiefs with the Buffalo Bills. Again, 6 games. He has 31 catches for 371 yards. That's an average of 5.2 receptions per game and 61.8 yards per game. But last year in 2022, he had that big regular season game, 10 catches for 148 yards. If you remove that one game, he's averaging in the other 4.2 receptions per game and 44.6 yards per game, including this game this year where he had 4 catches for 24 yards on 11 targets, 2021 where he had 2 catches for 69 yards, and the 2021 13-second playoff game where he had 3 catches for 7 yards on 6 targets. But in
Jeez.
that game, Gabe Davis balled out. So we're seeing teams that especially have familiarity like Steve Spagnuolo and I guess, more savvy teams in general. Like you said, Eric, they are leaning into that aspect of someone else has to beat us. We're taking away
Mhm.
Stefon Diggs. We know where he likes to work, where the offense likes to get him the ball. We're going to take those options away or make it very hard for you to complete those options. And we've seen the struggles can manifest on the field in Diggs' numbers, especially these past several weeks.
Yeah, and so I started a thread a couple days ago in regards to Diggs because we get these questions throughout the week, especially right after a game,
Mm,
about Stefon Diggs and what teams are doing. So I got questions like, has he lost a step? I'm like, man, how can we say that when early on he was just roasting things? Do you think he just
yep.
lost a step halfway through the season? No.
Yeah.
And so I started off with some of the next gen stats and separation stats, and you can see, according to the next gen stats, his average separation is 2.7 yards. Last season it was 2.8. Year before
Mm,
that it was 2.7. 2020 was 3 yards overall. So he's still getting the same, pretty much the same separation in the last few years. Now I looked at some of these splits since Brady's taken over, and if you look at weeks 1 through 10, some of the stats that I looked at were like team target percentage, EPA per target, yards per route run, explosive plays per target percentage, first downs per target, success percentage, drop percentage, and route depth. Some of the splits from weeks 1 through 10 versus 11 through 14 were kind of interesting, but again, I don't think it's clean cut. Hey, it started when Joe Brady took over. I think it actually started a couple weeks before when we were saying, hey, this offense is pretty predictable.
Mm.
They're only running a lot of those coverage beaters. But you can see that all those stats from the first 10 weeks were all down. His EPA per target were much, much lower. In the first 10 weeks, his EPA per target was 0.31. In weeks 11 through 14, it was negative 0.2. So awful. Yards per route run, it is a 2.37 in the first 10 weeks to 1.01. And so you can look at some of those stats, and I left some emojis there to let you know that they're not good. Those splits were not good. But again, I don't think it's as clean as that, but it gives you an idea of, how much different things are and have been for Diggs from early in the year.
This is one of those things, Eric, where the data kind of helps us piece the puzzle together with what we're seeing on film, or kind of makes you go back and be like, huh, and then start to connect some of those dots. Because again, like we've talked about, on the show and offline, between ourselves here, like we've talked about the struggles that we've seen with Stefon Diggs at times. Again, going back to that Denver game where corners are literally posting up inside with inside leverage, being like, no, we know you're going to try and do like a 5-yard in or a slant right here, and we're not going to give it to you. And you look at those numbers, and the difference is significant. And even just seeing, from that week 10 number with, how he is at that, negative, 0.20
Yeah.
EPA. That's good for right now. Like on the entire year, there's 101 players that have at least 50 targets. That negative 0.20 would be good for 98th out of 101 qualifying players on the year in EPA per target. Just to put that because some people might see that and be like, oh, negative 0.2 is that bad? It's awful.
Awful.
And then even more so considering what he was previously with how positive his EPA was. Like that's a huge shift. And it's being pointed out by teams and it's being recognized. And then you kind of, it not all comes to a head, but you have that trend recently. And then coming into a game against a defense that traditionally, led by a defensive coordinator, has traditionally done well in bottling up Stefon Diggs. And it's just kind of been a recipe for, not success or some failure going into this past week. And Eric, I know we also got some graphs and things and charts to kind of put that perspective, or to put that into even further perspective. So take us through this with what we got for the team targets here.
Yeah, so we got like 4 graphs courtesy of True Media, just outlining the season. So week 1's at the top, week 14 to the bottom. And this is the team target percentage for Stefon Diggs. And as you can see early on, he was getting a lot of targets. And then again, the last few weeks, it's down to 26.3%, down from 30.7% early on in the year. And again, I think that is part of the product of that is, hey, we have these other weapons and Brady's doing a good job. We're praising him for getting others involved, running backs, the tight ends, getting guys involved that, Ty Johnsons of the world. Like, so we've given, Brady credit for that, but it's also taken away from their alpha receiver, as you can see in team target percentage as the season went on. I mean, look at weeks, once week 9 hit, 21.9%, week 10, 20%, week 11, 27.6%, 22.4% in week 12. And then week 14 was up a little bit to 30.6%. So again, we've praised Brady for getting others involved. But it's been kind of at the expense of Diggs when you're looking at some of the numbers.
And that's, you can look for the silver lining with him, be like, the gravity that Stefon Diggs has is part of the reason that Dalton Kincaid gets these advantageous looks, or there are more plays available for Khalil Shakir or Gabe Davis at times. Again, like a horrible, horrible stat line is that 2021 playoff, the 13 seconds game, 3 catches for 7 yards on 6 targets. That is awful. But Gabe Davis set a friggin' playoff record in that game, and the Bills put up 36 points. So it's not necessarily all doom and gloom and end of the world, but it is significant from what it starts to indicate in terms of what defenses are picking up from this offense, what they're trying to shut down, what they're trying to stop, and the effect that it's having on the offense. And if Stefon Diggs isn't able to kind of get it into first gear and you're not able to get the ball to your alpha receiver from a successful standpoint, that can be okay if you're operating consistently with the rest of your weapons. But that's going to put a lot onto the shoulders of Dalton Kincaid and maybe James Cook, Khalil Shakir, Gabe Davis, because if these struggles continue, it takes away a significant part of this offense, which is Josh Allen going to Stefon Diggs.
Yeah. And so now we're looking at EPA per target as the season has progressed. I mean, look at the drop off, guys.
Brutal.
That's a pretty big drop off. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a little more digging, and so then I looked at, EPA per target by down. I was like, hey, how's that splitting real quick? And so let me bring up the tweet that I had from earlier today. So EPA per target by down this year. First down, 0.40. That's really good. Second down, negative 0.04. Negative 0.04 on second down this year. That's crazy. Third down, 0.29. That's good. 2022, first down, 0.42. Very good. Second down, 0.49. So second down in 2022 for EPA per target for Diggs, it was 0.49. This year on second down, negative 0.04. I mean, that was just staggering. When I uncovered that, I called you immediately. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you gotta hear these numbers. And I told you I had to triple check that because that was so bad that I almost didn't believe it.
It's one of those like we joked about it earlier. Yeah, like you see those numbers and it's nuts. And here's boof, like
What the heck, man?
this one is EPA per target for second down on the year, and you see it like each week, and those aren't dashes in weeks
Yeah.
5 through 14. Those are negatives. And again, just to put it in perspective for everyone, so EPA is expected points added. So each play when you start has like an expected point value attached to it. And then based on what happens on the play, you either add or subtract from that expected point. So, for instance, like week 4 is insane. 2.53. That means on each one of his second down targets, the expected points that he's adding is about 2 points per
Yeah.
target, which is nuts. Like that's tremendous. But that gets overshadowed by everything you see in like negative, 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 including so week 8 and week 10 at negative 0.89 and negative 0.98 respectively, that basically means like every time he's targeted on second down in those games, he's removing a point from the
Yeah. They're
Buffalo
losing
Bills.
points on the board.
Yeah. And week 12 as well, like
Yeah.
negative 1.05. Like that's so every target is basically taking points away. And then the success rate is these are all just nuts.
37% success rate on second down. Last year on second down, it was 61.9%. What a freaking drop
That is
on
crazy.
second
Like,
down.
and also too, like that's we say it every time on the show when we use percentages. Like a 5 percentage point drop is significant. Let alone this is 24.9% or percentage point drop is
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah. This is again, I had to triple check it because it just did not make any sense to me,
No.
why that was happening as often as it was. And so, of course, we looked at some of the numbers, and I do want to jump into the film. But let's start off. I said, the quick game. That was kind of the thing. Obviously, when coordinators are creating a game plan and calling plays in the game, first and second down are usually your base concepts. So a lot of the Bills base concepts you're going to see on the second down plays. You would probably see it on first down as well, depending on again the distance, whether it's like second and 1 to 3, second and 4 to 6, second and 7 or more. You're going to see a lot of the same type of plays. And again, maybe they just change out personnel into the primary read of the play and stuff like that. But more times than not, as Josh says, Diggs is usually that first read. And so what we've heard from across the league as a trend, but what we started talking about in the Jags game, when the Jags were bringing all of those pressures in London, they were happening on second down. And what we're seeing is defenses are treating second down like it's third down. So you're getting a lot of those exotic pressures, blitzes, and the Bills kind of baseline concept for getting out of a blitz and really just trying to stay ahead of the chains when teams are blitzing, kind of like a fail safe, has been their RPO game, more specifically their RPO screen game. And that obviously has been a huge talking point this week, especially coming out of the game last week.
Yeah, with tons of screens in that game against Kansas City, multiple drops from Diggs on the screens, a huge miss for a potential touchdown opportunity to Gabe Davis. So it's funny how that, whole screen piece connects. And you hit it on the head, which I think is an awesome point for people to really like take home with you from this episode is, we see trends across the league And one of them is, treating second downs like third downs. And if you can go watch coaching clinics on YouTube, watch, what, the Georgia crew is doing. There's tons of stuff from Glenn Schumann and that whole crew, like talking about what they do. And they talk about that, treating second down like
Right.
third down and what it forces offenses to do. And the defenses have used that to limit Stefon Diggs significantly. And then by extension, trying to limit and kind of hinder what this Bills offense is doing or has done.
Right. And so we're going to get back to the film here. We're getting some comments to say, hey, get back to the film. Enough with the analytics. We're with you. We're with you. But we just want to set up this segment because we're going to go through a bunch of film showing you some of the stuff we're talking about. And I'll outline, the down and distances. This one's a first down, but I want to show you, hey, they're looking to Diggs on this play, that 4-strong type of look. They're looking to Diggs. Diggs is the first read right here over the middle. All right. And Josh is going to look to him. And it's taken away. Slay takes it away. And honestly, look at the linebacker. You see him fast flowing over the top too. So again, gravity. Diggs has gravity. This is first down. They're trying to get the ball to him, especially when you run those 4-strong formations or 4 eligibles in the one side of the field. A lot of times it's like what did Varsity Blues call it? They had 4 to one side, 1 to the other.
Oh, damn, I remember.
I forget what he called it. Oop-de-oop or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that might be. Yeah, that's
yeah.
definitely in there. Yeah.
Yeah, so you want them to isolate on the backside, but you can see it's not just the corner there. You see the linebacker fast flow. And so Josh just moves on, but that opens up Gabe Davis over the middle. This is a play that Bills run pretty much every week. But
Yes.
again, first read is Diggs. They want to get the ball to Diggs. If he has leverage, if he wins that one-on-one versus Slade, Diggs is going to get the ball. He doesn't, and it opens up the middle of the field for Davis.
And these are the type of things we continue to see towards Stefon Diggs, especially when he is that single receiver. Like sometimes it's a direct double team, like an actual bracket, and sometimes it's just like, hey, zone coverage, we're fast flowing over there. If, we might be going there on the snap, or if Allen's eyes lead us there like they do on this play, like Allen's eyes go there to Diggs, and 53 is immediately like, oh, let me haul ass and try and get over there because he's trying to go to Stefon Diggs. But Eric, this is again, like you said, this is like one of the positives. Okay, cool. Diggs isn't getting the ball because they're giving him that attention. They're taking that away. Like this is a significantly positive gain for Gabe Davis that's created because of the gravity Stefon Diggs has.
Right. And against the Chiefs, hey, what do you know? Same play, bottom of the screen, inside leverage. This is something we're going to say several times over the next few minutes in this segment.
Yep.
Watch the corners that play over Diggs, especially when they're up near line of scrimmage and post snap. You'll see them take inside leverage. And I think that's them trying to take away the quick game, take away the quick. Again, that last play and this play are typically quick game pass concepts, quick slant over the middle. And if he can win over the middle, look at the space he's going to have. So obviously Snead does a good job, chokes that route out, shuts that quick game down. And you can see, there is a safety over the top too. And what does it do? It opens up Knox over the middle early in this game.
Yeah, again, similar to what we saw in that Philly play, except this time with Snead, like this is a very deliberate move from Snead. You literally see him basically, he's still lined up a little bit on that inside shoulder, but closer to being head up. And on the snap, he almost kind of like he hinges or like walls off, and he immediately steps inside, gets his hands on Diggs. Like he's literally saying like, no, you're not going inside. Even if he doesn't think Diggs is going inside, that is what he is aiming to take away, because that is what the Bills like to do with Stefon Diggs in general and in these situations. And then, like you said, you got Justin Reed over the top as that safety. But again, who cares in this instance? Because you get that 4-strong look and it creates all this space inside. So that's a key piece too. Like the numbers for Diggs aren't there and the success isn't there, but it is creating the opportunity for success for other players like you're seeing here. Is I also love how just crazy Willie Gay gets faked out. Like he's calling out that motion from Gilliam and then tries to slam on the brakes and just can't and wipes out.
It's so bad. They attacked him in the run and the pass game. And so let me talk about that real quick. So, okay, first read, it's taken away. Well, the 4 eligibles to the top of the screen, it's forcing these guys to all communicate. Because as you said, like early on in this breakdown is, hey, 2 can become 3, 1 becomes 2. Like they're changing things with all these guys with 4 eligibles to the top of the screen. And so they're executing that push. They're pushing all these guys, Cook and Gilliam out wide. They're pushing it to these linebackers here. And then you see Bolton pointing to Knox here as he comes across the middle, because he's passing Knox to Gay, but Gay doesn't get the memo. And you see the middle of the field wide open. So kudos to Brady. And again, this is what we're giving him credit for. You're trying to get the ball to your alpha, but they're taking away the inside, the quick game with good leverage. And so they're just moving on in the progressions, and you're getting the ball over the middle of the field, which we want, to other weapons, especially the tight ends, with Knox coming back and Kincaid. And this is something, again, the inside leverage piece. Watch Sauce Gardner. Again, it's Sauce Gardner. He's pretty good. It's a 2-by-2 formation. But watch immediately post snap. Look at the leverage.
Yep.
Boom. Inside leverage there. And he just stays right in his pocket, and then he's there at the catch point, and the ball goes incomplete. So again, the leverage piece here, they're not letting Diggs, in those one-on-one situations, those man coverage situations, they're not letting him play that and one type style where he can create separation with those unorthodox releases and crossovers.
And this goes to some of the numbers you put out in that thread, with Diggs having that 2.7 average yards of separation on the year. And this is part of it, like teams playing him in this way and recognizing the type of route tendencies he has and then playing with that type of leverage. And, it's funny too, like with the man coverage piece, cover one, obviously man coverage, single high safety. You look at that for Stefon Diggs and you would think like, man, like he's such a good route runner. He's great against man coverage. If you look at him on the year, there are 57 players, qualifying players this year, not just receivers, when it comes to snaps against cover one. Diggs is 36 out of those 57 in EPA per target, 34th in total EPA, 34th in positive play percentage, 34th in yards per route run, and 33rd in yards per catch. Like you're just not seeing that separation again in this specific instance against a specific coverage, but overall it's just indicative of how teams are playing him from a man coverage leverage perspective, taking away those route tendencies.
Yeah, and someone in the chat legit says more motion for Diggs then. So I looked at the splits from Dorsey to Brady, and motion is up 5%. Motion is up from 10% to 15%. And so they are motioning Diggs more, but again, it's just the leverage, and you're going to see they motion him later in this breakdown. You're going to see how the defense adjusts to it, but we'll get to it. So here's another first down play. Again, these aren't the second down plays that we're going to eventually get to. These are just those first down plays and how defenses are using leverage to take away some of, what Diggs is good at. And this was a game where you started to notice defenses and defensive backs cluing in on the Bills coverage beater concepts. And so Diggs he just motioned to the top of the screen, and it looks like it's just going to be his own coverage. And they run their, too high beater where he's just running that under route. And much like you saw in the last couple of plays, that DB, he takes inside leverage, right, Anthony? He tries choking him off, but he's in that soft press. So there's still some space in between the two players. And that allowed Diggs to get across the face of that guy, catch the ball, and nearly get the first down on this play, if I recall correctly. Yep, he gets the first down on this play. So, yeah, this worked. But the heavy lifting was from Diggs here, and he had just enough space to win one-on-one, even when the defender took away that it took away that in cut, took away that slant route by taking inside leverage post snap.
You hit it there with the heavy lifting. Like this play worked, but look how hard Diggs had to work to make this work. Like this is a tremendous job by Diggs. Like this corner is playing with inside leverage, and Diggs manages with his pacing and his timing and body language and, operating with deception in his stem to be able to open him up enough and threaten him vertically that it gets 23 to plant on that right foot, that upfield foot, so he can cut underneath him and get inside. But that's hard. Like that, and that's not necessarily sustainable. And no disrespect to the corner here, but this isn't going to work against the L'Jarius Sneeds and the Sauce Gardners of the world who had better technique.
Shut him down on the same route earlier in the game. The same
go.
Exact route. He shut him down. He just uses a jam at the line of scrimmage, completely eliminated him on this play.
And not to mention too, like you said, like this one's more of a soft press. Like even if the corner is just up a little more into the kitchen of Stefon Diggs, this becomes significantly harder. Like, and so this is an example. People see the end result and like, man, what an amazing play by Diggs. But he had to do a lot of heavy lifting, like you said, to get that positive play there.
Right. And so now this is a second down situation. All right. So we're going to get into some of the second down plays. 2nd and 15 against the Chiefs in the second quarter. 4:32 left in the half. Bottom of the screen. So you see Sneed, once again, kind of messing with him in his leverage and his press. But then I want you to watch over the top. So you see him take inside leverage. Sneed takes away the inside leverage. And then you have the safety rolling over the top. So, of course, Josh is not going to think about going there. And to kind of highlight the difference between the safety that's near the logo, look at the width. Look at how they're shading this safety towards Diggs. And then damn near have a post safety to help with everyone else. So that's the type of respect that Diggs is getting. And again, other guys have to step up, but it doesn't allow Diggs to get the ball. But on this play, it allowed James Cook to get the ball. So once again, others are benefiting. And I love this play from the end zone angle. I think this is one we were kind of referencing earlier against Bolton. Just watch how quickly Josh gets to Cook right here, and just boom, he's out. Like that burst, man. Like it's nice to see him use that, and Josh hitting him in stride, getting to him. Because again, this isn't really a play that's probably drawn up for Cook, but Josh got there just based on the coverage rotation and understanding. Again, with those two high shells, the underneath's wide open. And if you're in playing 2-man or you got guys over the top of Diggs, that means someone else. A lot of people have one-on-ones, and that guy was Cook versus Bolton, and Cook roasted him on that out route.
Yeah, this is the one we talked about earlier, and then I mentioned was the one that got me like really excited out of all of like Cook's receptions in this game, because this is the ones like the type of route and type of win you see from the Alvin Kamara's and the Austin Eckler's, like these true 3-down backs that are threats coming out of the backfield, like where you can get them in a mismatch against the linebacker just purely because of their skill set. Like this isn't even that like the most amazing route from Cook, and Bolton's in decent position, but you see the separation with Cook's speed and then the decision making from Allen, the ball placement from Allen to allow Cook to get this ball and continue to get upfield, which is awesome. But again, it's partially set up because of that coverage that they are rotating towards Stefon Diggs. And again, you get that inside leverage from L'Jarius Sneed. You get that far safety. Like anytime you get a boundary safety, like outside the numbers, like between the numbers and the hash, like they are doing that for a specific reason based on alignment. And it's because of Stefon Diggs. And again, that just means, Diggs is going to be able to work in certain instances. Other guys have to. And so it's nice to be able to see these little glimpses in terms of, some hope if these type of struggles continue.
Yeah, so back to the Jets game, 2nd and 7 situation. So another second down play. And this is where we begin the segment of the RPO screens. And we heard Joe Brady give an awesome answer this week about why they made the call against the Chiefs late in the game to run that RPO screen. And he had a great point, because it really relates back, Anthony, to what we talked about earlier of how defenses are treating second down like third down. And you're getting those exotic looks, exotic pressures and blitzes. And so what you're going to see on these few plays, and we'll get to the Chiefs one, is that they're giving Josh the option to get the ball out and again, stay ahead of the chains, even if they only get 3 yards on the play. That's a win versus a blitz. And instead of taking a sack, that's still a win in keeping the offense on schedule. And so you heard Joe Brady talk about, hey, we're giving Josh the option to spit it out to Diggs if they bring pressure, because defenses are bringing pressure and blitzes on second down. And so I thought that was an awesome answer and logic behind it. But then you're having these type of plays from Diggs where he's just dropping them. He's just simply dropping them. And he's had like 4 drops over the last 4 games, and 2 of them were on these screens. One of them you'll see Josh just straight dirted right in front of Diggs against the Bucks. But yeah, this is a RPO. It's a run with a pass tag. So there's a run here. And if Josh likes the box or the numbers, he can just, hand it off. But here he throws it out wide because they have a hat on a hat. We always talk about that. And obviously the third defender would be coming from depth, or even the linebacker. So that's why Josh spits it out to Diggs on this play. But again, it's out in front of Diggs and he just drops it.
Yeah, the math is sound. The decision is sound. It's just that poor execution there. And that's a ball that Diggs should have. But like you said, like it's also a little out in front of him from Allen. I think that's a piece you see too, like consistently within these like RPO, screen pieces to Diggs and Allen. Like they're catches that Diggs could make, but they're also like not the best throws. Sometimes they're too far out in front of Diggs, or sometimes they're too low, and it's more towards the back shoulder, and he has to like turn his body a little bit and adjust. Like there's just that disconnect that exists there. But again, it's being created by what the defense is presenting.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And so here's the one I was talking about. So you see, again, they have a 2-over-1 to the top of the screen, because this guy's kind of shown right here, right, Anthony? And so this is why you see Josh throw it out wide. So you have a man-on-man here. And so the only guy that can really make the tackle on Diggs is this guy if Shakir picks up his block. But watch this throw. Again, this is a second down play, guys. You're not even giving the guy a chance. So we talked about it, and the chat was talking about it earlier. Josh isn't the best at throwing screens, and the Bills haven't been really good at running screens, not just because of Josh's throwing and accuracy or placement on screens, but also because the defense does like to keep a lot of eyes on Josh and play, a lot of good zone and spies and stuff like that. And, muddle rushes to keep Josh in the pocket. And those are all definitely factors. But here, this is a plus one. Like if Josh can hit Diggs, this is a positive play again on second down, but instead it goes right into the dirt.
Yeah, this is something that, Devin White takes a good angle and he's fast and athletic, but at the very least, you're looking at, I don't know, like worst case scenario, like a 3-yard gain. And if Diggs can get up the sideline, maybe push it to like 4 to 6, something. Either way, it's better than just a straight up incompletion. I feel like Devin White like goes to him that there to be like, bro, you saw him dirt that throw to you? And they kind of like butt heads a little bit. Like, yeah, like it's just, again, that inconsistency piece that we see. And this contributes to that negative like EPA per target there. Even though this isn't Diggs's fault, this contributes to that significant metric change that we've seen.
Right. And so here's a 2nd and 2 situation. And this, believe it or not, was a successful screen or RPO screen. 5:35 on the clock in the first quarter. This is one to the bottom of the screen, and Diggs gets 3. He gets 3 yards. So since week 8, the Bills have run. Diggs has gotten 21 targets. Anthony, 21. He has 7 receptions. 7 receptions on second down.
This one blew my
Since week
mind when
8.
you called me earlier and told like
Yeah.
there were all the data really hit me, but this one was the one that just like dropped my jaw.
Right. And so he's had 21 targets on second down since week 8, and he's got 7 receptions. 5 of those 21 targets are screens like this. And he's completed 3 of those 5 to Diggs for 9 yards. This was 3 yards. So they're averaging 3 yards of completion. Again, it's not a bad call when the defense is blitzing on those second downs. And this one, again, it was a success. He got the first down, but man, he had to work to get that first down. So again, we're just trying to show you why the Bills are struggling on that down. It was too eye-opening to ignore it because second down has been so bad when we're talking about Diggs and again, all of the statistics, stats that we showed earlier.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, you're just putting that whole picture together, kind of show what's up. And, Eric, it'd be cool, like if a play like this set up like a really big play opportunity later in the game.
Yeah, you had to go there, huh? I know, man.
Oh,
It's tough. It's tough. And so those were 3 of the screens on second down. Again, second down. And so here's a 2nd and 5 situation, and this is the Chiefs game again. And once again, this was the end of the half. I mean, just look at the safety over the top. Look at the leverage by the DB. And again, you got to think about it. Yeah, he's got the safety deep. He's got a man over him, but he's also got a boundary. So it's basically 3-on-1 here. And look at the width again of that safety versus the safety to the bottom. Look at the width and the difference of the landmarks that they're on. And you see Josh try to still push it down there. This is right under the 1-minute mark. And of course that goes incomplete. These are the things that teams are doing to Stefon Diggs on second down and third downs, man. It's tough to see. Like they have to do some different things because they have to get him more involved on second down to skip third down altogether, because that's what teams are banking on. That, hey, we're going to shut him down on second down so that we can get into those 3rd and 6s and 3rd and longs. And then we can throw a corner on Diggs and then a safety over the top. And we can shut the Bills offense down because they don't have any other guys that at the moment can carry the team when Diggs is bracketed.
This type of width is for those watching and playing at home, like that type of width is significant. Like Eric, you highlighted it, like the difference between, so Justin Reed is that safety up top and Kamari Connor is that safety down low. And granted, you have the initial alignment in terms of like wide side and short side piece, but the fact that Justin Reed is at the numbers, similar to what we showed earlier, where the safety to the bottom of the screen was between the numbers and the boundary, that is an extreme width in terms of the landmark, like you said, for a deep half safety. Like, and just see it in relation to Kamari Connor, and that width is happening there. And like you labeled it, him cheating to that short side up top, you have to start punishing defenses for cheating to that side like that, or cheating to that degree. And if they're going to continue, cool, that's fine. Hit all these other options with more regularity, because this isn't a direct like double cover on Stefon Diggs, but he's shaded so significantly in that regard to try and take away Stefon Diggs.
Yeah. And we go back to the Eagles game, 2nd and 4 situation. So another second down play, 2nd and short.
Mm.
And just look at Diggs. He's just like, yo, look at this. I got
Yeah.
Byard in my face. I got a corner over the top. It's 2nd and 4. And believe it or not, on 2nd downs since week 8, this is the play that actually got the most yards on 2nd down for the Bills and Diggs here. And look how hard he had to work on this. It's literally
Mhm.
just cover 3. It's literally just cover 3. They just walked the safety, the flats player, out over Diggs, take away that primary read, take away him early, and then Josh sees the corner relate to this seam ball right here, and so then he throws it up and over Byard. But look how hard he had to work to get that there. So Brady has to do a better job of, yes, moving Diggs around on 2nd down, but trying to get some easy button plays back for Diggs, because defensive backs and defensive coordinators are keying in on Diggs on 2nd down.
Yeah, and this isn't, again, for everyone playing at home, like, this is cover 3, like, cover 3 happens all the time, and, Eric, you called it out, but, like, to to take that, flat safety, and instead of spinning him down or, bringing him down, like, after and, showing single high and having him go there, too high spin, whatever, to just outright declare him off rip and just put him right into Stefon Diggs's face. Like, that is purposeful, that is intent, and that's not happening with regularity. And this ends up being a completion and the most successful one, like you said. But it takes a tremendously layered throw from Josh Allen. It takes a really great route from Stefon Diggs just to complete like a 14-yard
Yeah.
pass on this play. And again, it's indicative of how defenses are treating Diggs and how they're treating these down and distances and who they're trying to take away and why. Again, like, it's awesome that he won there and Allen won there, but just to see just to see Byard like right off rip, like, not even, no, we're not trying to hide anything, we're not trying to do anything, it's going to be cover 3 and we're going to put him right here to try and disrupt you, and then he's just going to stay in that zone.
And here's another one where they have a guy over the top. Now we're beyond the 2nd downs. We're working into 3rd downs now and showing you again. We showed you how they want to get the Bills offense into 3rd downs, and the Bills are very good on 3rd down. Don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but they're very good on 3rd downs because they stay in that manageable 3rd and 6, 3rd and 4
Mhm.
situation. So by taking Diggs away as much as they can on 2nd down, again, they're going to force those 3rd and long plays where then Josh maybe gets a little more hero ball in his blood
Mhm.
and wants to, make some plays down the field and things can happen. But watch Diggs here. And so again, good motion here by Kincaid. Again, that kind of hides Diggs a little bit. But look how the Eagles go ahead and defend him on this play.
Mhm.
And it's a nice route, but Josh can't throw it to him. So outside leverage off the snap by the DB, got a safety waiting on him. So if Diggs goes across the middle, this guy's probably going to cut it and take and run with Diggs here. So you can see Josh is looking at him, but there's just nothing there. He can't throw it. Obviously, the Eagles have some pressure. They get a 5-man pressure here, and Josh has to escape the pocket. And this is when, Davis is able to separate. Again, other guys got to step up. And this one was a little outside of structure, but other guys got to step up within structure when Diggs is taken away. And once again, it comes down to Brady. He's got to do a better job on 2nd down and 3rd down of getting Diggs away from those brackets, those
Mhm.
vices, those, plays where there's a guy up near the line of scrimmage and a guy over the top. He's got to do some things with Diggs to get him open.
The previous couple examples or several examples we showed, it was more, okay, the safety is, significantly shaded to this side or cheating to the dig side and trying to cut down. Like, this one is more deliberate. This is a purposeful, like, bracket, vice, whatever you want to go with. Like, look at Reed Blankenship. That's that safety, number 32 who's
Mhm.
coming down. He, on the snap, he immediately gets his eyes onto Stefon Diggs. And if like you said, you called out with what Slay was doing, they're just bracketing him like he's outside and Blankenship is inside. And you see Diggs sell that inside move, and Blankenship almost like poaches it, like he's trying to
Yep.
cut it off. And again, it's a great route from Stefon Diggs, but this is man coverage across the board with that double onto Stefon Diggs, a purposeful bracket. So again, it's just another example. Sometimes teams are just doing it with zone coverage, shading the safety significantly over to the top of him and cheating, or they're giving you direct, more, purposeful double coverage in terms of a bracket or something like that.
Right. And so here's a 3-by-1 formation from the Eagles game. Slay versus Diggs, top of the screen, and into the boundary, into the short side of the field. Slay's just going to take inside leverage like we talked about. And now he's got the boundary as a defender. Josh is looking there and then just reloads and misses Davis over the middle of the field, misses Shakir deep down the field here. And so again, the Bills are trying to get the ball to Diggs, and they're just not doing enough things with him to beat leverage, to get schemed open as often as he should. And they're just doing some good things, man. They're doing some good things. Got to give them credit because the Bills offense, when it comes to the passing game, does run through Diggs. So the Bills need to start pivoting and getting Diggs involved more.
Yeah, and this one just like that deep set, like little hook route from Stefon Diggs. And again, to the point, like another route that can be compromised with that inside leverage. And then especially to, even to the short side of the field, this isn't even one of those throws where Allen can kind of put it more outside. So that way, if you miss, you're just missing outside and it's that incomplete piece. But again, because it's on third down, you need a completion. So that can't be a risky throw out there. So Slay playing with that leverage against that route takes away and compromises Diggs, but even more so given the scenario and the situation. And this one still drives me. I don't know what happened on this throw. Like Gabe Davis was wide open. I don't know how it gets dirted. I don't know where it goes. But like he also for those, just like a quick anecdote. So Stefon Diggs, Eric, like you showed earlier, his average separation on the year is 2.7. Gabe Davis's is 2.9. I get a lot of comments anytime I say anything positive about Gabe Davis. I get a lot of comments on Twitter that are like, "Oh, well, it's because he can't separate. He separates more than Stefon Diggs." I obviously neither is great with being under 3, but this is an example of Gabe Davis being open and Allen just missing the mark for whatever reason. But again, it stems from what defenses are doing to take away Stefon Diggs, and if Allen can't be on the same page regularly with Gabe Davis, or Dalton Kincaid doesn't uncover, it starts to present complications because if you're an opposing defense, the easy button for Josh Allen for so long has just been like, okay, cool, I'll go to Diggs. And it just seemed like no matter what, they were able to win and click and their chemistry and their rapport and their timing. And now that they're starting to take that away or get that taken away by opposing defenses, again, that can be fine. You can still win. Again, like one of his most horrible stat lines was the 13 seconds game and the Bills put up 36 points. But that means it's going to take somebody like a Gabe Davis stepping up, or a Dalton Kincaid, or a James Cook, or Joe Brady in terms of scheming someone else open. You have to find some way to alleviate that pressure that is getting put onto the offense because defenses are taking away Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, and it can't be like, hey, Diggs is off to the left side. Oh, he's bracketed, so I have to move all the way across the field. It's got to be, again, within the progression. So it's going to take some manipulating of some of the routes to, put that receiver in the line of progression or line of sight of Josh on those plays. And when it comes to second down, like I love the rationale behind Brady and how he explained it. It was super insightful. It was good stuff, man. And when we talked about, running those screens off the RPOs, and if they're blitzing now, we can just get it out there and again, move on to the next play. I love that, but it's time to move away from throwing it to Diggs. It's time to, hey, let's give Shakir a shot. If we're going to do that RPO type screen, let's make sure that Shakir there, which again, it's ebb and flow. It's one of those things because Shakir's been really good as a blocker on those plays.
Yeah, I know, right? Like it's everything is such a catch-22.
But that's how you start to incorporate Knox and Kincaid, who's good at blocking in space, and obviously Gabe Davis. So switching it up in that manner, I think can, again, maybe yield a little more yardage on those plays. Instead of getting 3 a play, you're getting 6 or 12 every once in a while. And I will say it did work. Sherfield got 16 yards on the RPO screen in the game against the Chiefs. We showed the Diggs one that he converted, again, only a 3-yarder, but it moved the chains. So again, and Aaron said something about the screen. They were empty and they threw the screen to him when he was in a slot. Yeah, like vary it up that way. Maybe it's a pass run option where, Josh is either throwing that or he's running it. Like all cards are on the table now, guys. Like their backs are against the wall. Start to incorporate everyone. But when it comes to Diggs, like to wrap the segment up, it's time for them to do a better job of getting him the ball so that they can start skipping those third downs and getting more explosive plays, because they've been very limited when it comes to that. And especially on second downs with Diggs, like his explosive percentage, it's dropped over the last half of the year.
Absolutely. And as the Bills hopefully make a march towards the playoffs, like if they see Kansas City in the playoffs again, you're going to get this similar type of play against Stefon Diggs like you have every single time he's been in a Bills jersey against Steve Spagnuolo and that Chiefs defense. And when you're in the playoffs, spoiler alert, you're playing good teams. So if you are playing the Baltimore Ravens, or even again, we saw what the Jags did at times, especially when you get into those third and longs and let them get into their creative like pressure looks. Teams have your entire menu and your entire catalog on tape when you get to the playoffs. And
Mhm.
if you are showing vulnerabilities like this, and guys like myself and you, Eric, are able to diagnose it and figure it out, you can best believe that these
Yeah.
defensive scouts and these defensive coaches and defensive coordinators are picking it out. Like, they have these numbers, they have this data, they're seeing on the tape, and they're going to replicate these types of things. And
Mhm.
it's going to be hard. Not that it's impossible, but it's going to be hard for this Bills offense to, even if they get to the playoffs, make a run and continue to go forward if they cannot get Stefon Diggs into a rhythm. Again, it's possible. And that just means Gabe Davis has to hit consistently. Kincaid, Shakir, Cook, Dawson Knox, like Latavius Murray, you have to just have this collective effort, because Diggs is a true alpha, one of the best receivers in the entire game. And if he's having that, low in turn, that low production, it's in that significance, it's going to take a village to kind of replace that
And
piece.
and I'm glad you alluded to it earlier about how Gabe went off when,
Mhm.
they were shutting down Diggs in that 13-second game, because I talked about getting, a receiver in the line of sight of Josh when they are double teaming or bracketing Diggs. That's Gabe. That's been Gabe's MO since he came to the Bills. So that's someone to keep an eye on going forward. I know it's a hot button topic and when it comes to that receiver, but
I know.
I'm telling you, that's going to really open up everything we talked about. Again, getting the ball to the other guys, but getting those explosive plays, like that's his role. So
Yeah.
someone to keep an eye on going forward in the next few weeks.
Speaking of going forward, Eric, as we start to look forward for this Buffalo Bills team, we talked about it, these past several weeks with the potential hole that they put themselves in with being 6-6 and losing these very winnable games. They had to go on a run to potentially make the playoffs, and that run potentially started with that win against the Kansas City Chiefs. And they sit here at 7-6. They got a lot of help this week with the
Yeah, they did.
Miami Dolphins losing, with the Pittsburgh Steelers losing, with the Texans losing. A lot of teams just sitting at 7-6 in the AFC. Where's your head at going forward? Are you focused solely on this Dallas game? If so, where and why? Are you still focused on the bigger picture? Is it something Bills related, opponent related, conference related? As we start to look forward here, as the Bills continue to make this playoff push, where's your head at going forward?
Yeah, I'm still on the defensive side of the ball, man. I like what they did last week against. I know a lot of people scoff at the Chiefs offense, but it's still Patrick Mahomes. And they did a very good job, as we talked about early on, of adding some, slightly different wrinkles and looks, playing some different types of coverages, more man coverages, and having DNs kind of covering out of the backfield. Like that was cool stuff. They're gonna have to be creative like that over the next few weeks against some, again this week alone, when they're up against Prescott and what they're doing on offense, probably the hottest offense in the league right now.
Mm.
And so they can win in a multitude of ways. They have weapons all over the field and a very, pretty good O line when you talk about protecting Dak. And Dak's playing in probably the best quarterback in the league right now, honestly, when you look at everything in totality, film and analytics. So I do think it's going to come down to the defense being able to make some stops. I think the offense, I think Josh is going to leave it all out there. I don't think they're going to hold anything back. I think he's going to leave it all out there. I like to be at the home. I like the game being at home this week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it'll be up to the defense and McDermott and being able to shut out games like you saw last week. And of course, getting some breaks as well. That's what it takes when the conference is this jammed up right now. Like it's going to take some, opportunistic bounces, some turnovers, some crazy things that happen. It's going to be like that every single week in the FC conference the rest of the year.
And I'm hoping, with how unfortunate the Bills' luck has been for the majority of the year when it comes to how the ball has bounced, I'm hoping you get some of that positive regression towards the mean down the stretch. And,
Mhm.
you know, got couple positives in this game, the Benford strip and fumble, but even more so, Latavius Murray drops the ball and Gabe Davis can't secure it on the ground and it goes out of bounds. So
Mhm.
maybe some fortuitous bounces starting to go their way. And like you said, they're going to need it. And I know on when I was doing the show last night, like a lot of people are coming in the comments saying the Cowboys like haven't beat anybody good and yada yada. The Cowboys are a crazy good
Come on.
football team
Yeah.
and have one of the best football players on the planet in Micah Parsons.
Mhm.
And Dak Prescott is sitting there at second in EPA per play right now for quarterback, second in EPA plus completion percentage over expected. He's just, as my guest said last night, a buzzsaw of efficiency. And
Mhm.
they've got one of the best receivers on the planet in their own right in CeeDee Lamb, who has true inside-outside versatility, let alone all the other dudes on their squad. Like the Cowboys, as the comment just comes through now saying like the Cowboys are peaking right now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they had some turnover luck that worked in their favor against the Eagles, but they beat down Philly. They've really turned the corner since they lost to San Francisco. And
Mhm.
to your point, though, I love that the game is at home. Dallas is a different team at Jerry World versus being on the road. I think this is a very winnable game for the Bills. And this is that really big one to get past, because if you can get past Dallas, no disrespect to the Chargers, but no Justin Herbert significantly alters what that
Mhm.
team looks like. You have New England, who you should have beaten the first time, but hopefully beat them the second in Buffalo. And there is a potential legitimately with the Bills going forward and Miami going forward, where that week 18 game in Miami could very well
Mhm.
be for the AFC title. And even without that, there's just playoff implications with every single game for the Bills. And there's no let up for this team. Dallas is sweet. They're coming to town. Like, they're a really good team. Like you said, like if I don't know who I'd pick for MVP in the NFL right now. But Dak is up there in that conversation with what
Mhm.
he just has this team doing, and they're a thorough unit from top to bottom, start to finish, offensively, defensively, and yeah. What else, Eric? Anything else before we wrap and say goodbye to the people tonight?
No, that was fun. I hope you guys got a lot of value out of that, especially the dig stuff. Like I said, we could have done an entire show on that,
Yep.
and we really couldn't cover everything that we wanted to. But we wanted to highlight some of those areas and what defenses are doing to dig. So, if you weren't able to watch that whole segment, we'll be cutting it up and just isolating that segment because we do think that it's important. It's something that all of our insiders and our Slack channel community, and even people that comment on our videos on our YouTube channel, they were asking for that. So again, that's you guys are really what drive that. You are the engine basically to
Mhm.
Cover One. You guys provide a lot of support, engagement, and more importantly, topics on things for us to cover when it comes to the film and again, all the shows on the network.
Absolutely. And, speaking of the network and the Slack channel and the brand and all that kind of stuff, one of the things that we really trumpet here on the show and the brand in general is Cover One Pass and that insider access. You mentioned that hashtag insider piece. Some information seems to trickle down every week about the Buffalo Bills, but if you are one of those insiders, you get access to it early. We're not a news breaking brand, but we do have access to things that we share with those insiders in the Slack channel with our communication pieces. And we've got Mr. Greg Thompson and Aaron Quinn with a short little video to tell you folks about what One Pass offers.
Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One Pass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
All for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
We're huge proponents of the One Pass piece, especially that Slack channel like we talk about. Oh, RJ, if you're still here, I saw your DM in the Slack channel. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I will answer it. I promise. I saw it late last night when I finished up Disguise coverage. I know you're usually still lurking around, so I will get
He's
back to you.
active, yeah.
Yeah, so I appreciate you. I'll get back to you in Slack. Yeah, that's it. It's something, Eric, that we talk about every
Yeah.
single episode, and it's just another form of support. Like we've talked about the kind words, the likes, the word of mouth. Yeah, RJ, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll get back to you in Slack. I apologize. I was going to mention it last night and then it skipped my mind. But that one pass piece is a significant contributor in terms of what we're able to offer and what we're able to do. Eric, you say it every week, like what we do and what we show and the analytics that we use, the programs and the software, all these pieces, they cost money and they cost dollars. And, you know, that one pass piece is a significant help towards us being able to provide a lot of those things.
Yeah, all the technology, but more importantly, the memberships and the access to all the creators. Like we have a ton, we have over 20 creators on the network, whether they're writers, podcasters, analytics guys. Like we have video coordinators. Like we have a lot of pieces to our network, and we're able to again compensate them for their hobby and what they love to do, because of our supporters, our insiders. So yeah, as Anthony said, it's really the lifeblood of our network, and really allows us to do all these cool things, to bring you all the cool technology, all the cool analytics. And we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And for those, members, we appreciate you regularly. For those potentially joining, we appreciate you as well. And appreciation all around just for everybody who joined us for this episode of the Cover One Film Room. We had a ton of engagement and live viewership in on this one. So if you rode with us live on this episode, thank you so much for riding with us live. If you're still here, please, and thank you, drop a like on this video. It goes a sincerely long way towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. If you are watching this not live and watching it later, please drop a like on this video here on YouTube. If you are listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, please rate and review and subscribe to the Cover One Film Room channel. And drop, all legitimate reviews, questions, thoughts, comments, concerns are extremely appreciated here for the brand. If you're here on YouTube, subscribe to the Film Room channel and to the Cover One brand as a whole. We have you covered literally every single day of the week with anything and everything in terms of Buffalo Bills coverage, varying levels of analysis, content. We got you covered on the website as well. Like there's a multitude of options for you for anything and everything Buffalo Bills, and by extension, football knowledge in general that we provide for you folks here at the brand. But that will do it for us here for this episode of the Cover One Film Room. Again, we appreciate the hell out of you folks in whatever form or fashion your support comes in. We're greatly thankful for myself, Anthony Prohaska, for the founder of Cover One, Mr. Eric Turner. This has been another episode of the Cover One Film Room. We will see you next Wednesday, December 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern for a Bills versus Cowboys breakdown in some form or fashion. Fingers crossed. Hopefully it's another dub, but we won't know until Sunday night, probably around 8 o'clock-ish. For those of you going to the game, be safe. Have a good time. Don't hurt yourself too much in any way, shape, or form. Cheer really loud. Make it tough for Dak and Dallas. And Godspeed. And hope your family, friends, and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. Godspeed. See you next week. And as always, go Bills.